Good afternoon, good evening. I'd like to welcome you to the City of Watsonville Planning Commission meeting for Tuesday, June 4th. Could we have a roll call of commissioners?
Corley,
Here.
Dana,
Here.
Gomez Contreras,
Here.
Gonzalez,
Here.
Jenkins,
Here.
Sarmiento,
Here.
Castillo.
Here. Could we please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance led by Commissioner Gomez Contreras?
I pledge allegiance to the
flag
of the
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with justice and liberty for all. Thank you. Since we have a large group here, anyone wishing to address the Planning Commission is asked to fill out a yellow speaker card, the yellow speaker cards for recording purposes, and place it in the box at the podium in the council chambers. Speakers will be limited to 3 minutes. For those of you that are standing up, I think we've got some chairs in here. If you can kind of walk in and
En español.
Hay bastantes asientos aquí más adelante para los que están parados atrás.
Y también en español, para dirigirse a la Comisión de Planificación, por favor, completa la tarjeta amarilla y antes de hablar, colócale en la caja que está en el podio, en la Cámara del Concilio Municipal. Esas tarjetas verdes, si quiere dirigirse a la Comisión de Planificación, por favor, puede llenar esa carta amarilla. Item 3.0, petitions and oral communications. 3.1, oral communications from the general public. This is the time set aside for members of the general public to address the Planning Commission on any item that is not on the agenda, which is within the general subject jurisdiction of the Planning Commission. Is there anyone from the audience who wants to address the Planning Commission on anything that is not on the agenda? Hearing none, seeing none, I'll close the oral communications from the general public. Any from the commissioners, any comments? Yes.
First, welcome, Seba. You look good in your green. Welcome tonight. I just wanted to talk very, very quickly. I know a lot of folks have been following the city council meetings and the budget situation for our city, and it's very distressful. It's a very difficult time for Watsonville, and lots of difficult decisions to make for our city council. One item I just wanted to speak quickly on is the fact that this department, the community development, one proposal has us losing 2 of our 3 code enforcement officers. And what these people do, I work in the housing industry, what they do is help us to have safer housing. I know a lot of us know folks that live in, unfortunately, substandard conditions, garages. I've seen tool sheds, lean-tos. I've seen many Watsonville residents living in conditions that are just not acceptable. And it's these code enforcement officers that go out into our city and help us to find these situations, and in a lot of ways, save lives, just like police officers do. In about the last 10 years, we've lost 2 people. 2 people have died because their housing was substandard and they were living in garages. It's usually our poorest citizens, and a lot of times it's somebody making money off of them by renting them places that are not acceptable for people to live in. So if you have a concern for our city, or if you're watching on TV, please let your council members know. Everybody has something that I know is important to them. Nonprofits, police, fire. But I don't think people really understand how important these code enforcement officers are. And if we lose 2 out of 3 of them, it's going to be very difficult to have safe, clean, good neighborhoods. And I think that's what all residents really want from their neighborhoods. Clean, safe, and that's important. It's important to us up here, and I know it's important to community development. So if you have a chance, give your opinion to somebody that can make a vote on that. Thank you.
Any other comments from any other commissioner? Any other comments? I'd like to close the oral communications from the general public and the planning commission and move on to the consent agenda. Pero hay más asientos aquí enfrente. Si quieren venir, si se pueden sentar aquí enfrente, hay más asientos. There's more chairs up here in the front. Some of you want to come down. Moving on to item 4.0 consent agenda, the motion approving minutes for the May 7th, 2013 regular meeting. The minutes were sent out, and we have the minutes for the May 7th meeting. Any corrections or additions to the minutes?
I have a related question. I don't know if
Yes.
this is the right time, but on page 3,
Page 3.
paragraph, that short paragraph, number 3 from the top, just related to noticing property owners. This is in relation to the application for Las Islitas that was discussed. Is it standard that only property owners are noticed and not renters?
Yes, it's standard. The notification is highly related to financial considerations for the property value. So when a change is going to occur like this that may affect property values, it goes directly to the property owners. Now, in the past, when we have had a discussion that affects a certain area of the city, like Seaview Ranch, for instance, we'll send it to owners and residents because they're living there on a day-to-day basis. But when it's a use permit like this, the law is that it goes to the property owners. We sometimes go the extra step and send it to the residents. But we don't have their name, so we just have to send it to occupant, and that doesn't always work.
Thank you.
But when something comes up before the planning commission or the city council, there is a notification
But it's to the property
But it's-
owners by law.
by law.
And sometimes, depending on what the situation is, we will go ahead and send one to every house in case there's a tenant in there. And we don't always know if that's the case or not. So we'll send double mailing, but we are only required to send to the property owners. So when it's a bigger issue, we will send it to renters.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other items? Deletions, additions, corrections? Do I hear a motion to approve?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Been,
I'll
there's
make
been
a
there's been a
second.
motion to approve. Is there a second?
I'll make a second.
There's a second by Rick. All those in favor of adopting the minutes of May 7th, 2013, say aye.
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 All those opposed? Motion carried.
Commissioner, I abstain. I wasn't here at the meeting.
Okay.
As well as I.
Jenny and Mireya were not here. Abstentions. Given that our TVs are not working yet, we're going to modify the agenda a little bit. 5.1 becomes 5.3, and then we're moving up. 5.2 becomes 5.1, and then 5.3 becomes 5.2. So we'll start with a public hearing to consider an application for a special use permit to allow the establishment of a CrossFit training facility in an existing industrial plant at 57A Hangar Way, filed by Cliff Hodges, the applicant. We'll have staff presentation, then the applicant will come up and address the planning commission, public hearing, then the commission discussion.
Thank you, Commissioner Castillo, members of the commission. My name is Susie Ayrton. I'm a planner with the Community Development Department. This applicant is proposing to establish a CrossFit training facility in the front tenant space at 57 Hangar Way to provide classes and training for residents of the city of Watsonville. Now, CrossFit includes a combination of aerobic exercise, weightlifting, and gymnastics training in either individual or small group classes to increase overall wellness and fitness. Oh. So the use permit is required to be approved by the Planning Commission because fitness centers and gyms are a conditionally permitted use in the Industrial Park Zoning District, which is where this proposed use is located. The project has been reviewed for compliance with fire and building codes, and minimal modifications will be required to accommodate the use. So this is an overview of the property. The property's approximately 31,600 square feet. The building itself is about 12,600 square feet. There are 5 tenant spaces in the building, but it's currently occupied by 3 spaces, and then this front vacant space up here on the front. So the space is essentially a large room with a bathroom. As you can see here, this is the tenant space. It's 3,300 square feet. And again, minimal modifications are needed to meet building and fire codes. Now, the property has a parking lot, as you saw in the previous slide, that contains 29 parking spaces. This includes 2 handicap accessible parking spaces, and those are all shared by all the tenants in the project. The Watsonville Municipal Code requires that each business maintain a minimum number of parking spaces depending on the use as outlined on your screen. You've got the 3 existing businesses, Monterey Bay Floors, Applied Technology, and Fabrication Effects. And then CrossFit would require 11 parking spaces for the 3,300 square feet, for a total of 28 parking spaces required for all 4 businesses, and 29 spaces are provided on site. So the parking requirement is accommodated for this project as well as the existing businesses. The proposed CrossFit training facility provides the city with a specialized workout program with personal training on a property that will not be adversely affected by the use. The property is consistent with the use permit requirements for the Industrial Park Zoning District, and staff recommends that the Planning Commission approve the project as conditioned. Thank you.
Thank you, Susie. Any questions for staff? No questions for staff? Is Mr. Hodges here?
Hello, Commissioners, staff. Thank you for having me here. My name is Cliff Hodges, and myself, along with my business partner, Sam Radetsky, who's also here, are the owners of CrossFit West. We are a CrossFit training facility that has been located in Santa Cruz for the past 5 years. And what we hope to do is open our second location here in Watsonville. For those of you that don't know, CrossFit is a fitness training regimen, as Ms. Ayrton described, that actually started here in Santa Cruz County, up in SoCal about 10 years ago, and has become wildly popular, and there are now over 5,000 gyms worldwide. And what we hope to do, and the reason why we're here, is to bring the first CrossFit gym to Watsonville. What CrossFit is all about is providing a functional fitness for people, so it's very different from a traditional gym. You don't see a lot of large machines, a lot of cables. We try to do movements that incorporate full body motor recruitment, running, jumping, squatting, lifting, throwing things. And all of our programs are coached. It's not an open gym. So in addition to the lack of large equipment, the other major difference in our day-to-day operations is that it's not an open gym that anyone can just walk into. As staff described, we operate on personal training and very small class size type of situations, so people come in by an appointment at very specified times. Due to the style of workout and the style of community around it, generally we are most busiest early in the morning and at the end of the day. So our past use, which was also an industrial space like this in Santa Cruz, it complemented the average 9 to 5 business very well, as we were mostly busy from 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. and from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. And our use in the middle of the day was very light. Beyond all those logistics of how the workout works and how our business functions, I think one of the most interesting and biggest differences about CrossFit from a traditional gym that you may not know about is the community aspect of it and how CrossFit really works as a community-based fitness. So my business partner Sam is just going to speak for a brief moment here and explain that to you as part of our presentation.
Good evening. So I actually grew up right down the street, and I went to Radcliffe, and it's a pleasure to be back here in Watsonville, hopefully bringing a business in. And my mother, of course, is just thrilled. Not only does she not have to go to Santa Cruz to work out, but she sees me for coffee now all the time. CrossFit has been wildly successful for two main reasons. One, it's just so effective in a fitness and health perspective. But the other reason is the community. I've been to many gyms over the course of my life, and oftentimes you go there and you're just a stranger. People don't make eye contact, for example. CrossFit is completely different. It's a very tight-knit community. Everything is done in coached classes, and we take that community both inside the gym and outside the gym. In terms of, we have our own functions outside the gym, such as things like beach and bowling nights and things like that. But also, we host the community at our gym. We do blood drives. Our facility in Santa Cruz has done CrossFit competitions and weightlifting competitions, both for general public, but also just specifically for masters athletes, 50 and over, for example. We also do things like childhood cancer benefits. And the community of CrossFit is even possibly more important than the actual movements of CrossFit, because that really is what keeps people coming into the gym. It's like family. We celebrate each other's birthdays, births, graduations. We're there when someone passes away, for example. In a way, almost, dare I say it, in terms of almost like a church community. And that's really what we're excited to bring to Watsonville. Not just this unparalleled fitness regimen, but also this kind of community, which we, of course, are so passionate about, that we're trying to open a second business about. Thank you.
Are there any questions for the applicant, Dobie?
I'm curious, what equipment do you have, or will you have in this large room? Or is equipment secondary to coaching or?
Sure. So the equipment, that's why you mostly see on a site plan, is a very open floor plan. So a CrossFit gym is widely open. As far as weighted movements, we use all free weights, so you're not going to see large machines. We also use physical objects like boxes for people to jump up on top of boxes, or pull-up bars to practice pulling strength and lifting the body up into the air. But it is all very mobile equipment, and so as from a basic setup standpoint, it's an open floor plan with free weights and mobile items to use for fitness.
Thank you.
Sure.
Rick?
Well, first off, welcome to Watsonville. Welcome back, and thank you for bringing your business here. I could probably use your services, but that sounds a little bit over my head. One quick question. You have 11 parking spaces, and you kind of answered my question. I'm sure you're going to be mostly focused after 5 o'clock when people get off work, and early in the morning when crazy people get up at the crack of dawn. But with that said, is 11 spaces really enough for you, or would we end up with some kind of parking issue over there? Is that not a lot of spaces for a business?
No, I understand that. In my personal opinion, it's actually more than adequate. Our first gym in Santa Cruz, we actually moved. We were in business for 2 years and then moved for the past 3 years. Our first space, I believe, had 2 parking spaces at roughly the same size, and we operated there for 2 to 3 years with really no problem. And because it's all by appointment and expected class times, we are really excited to have 11 spaces.
Okay, good. Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Other questions? Mireya?
I have 2 questions. One is about staff. Will you 2 people be the ones to be training? And my second question is, how, if at all, are youth involved in CrossFit training facilities at yours in Santa Cruz and maybe at other locations that you visited throughout, I think you said the U.S.?
Sure. That's a very good question. Cliff and myself, we will actually not be teaching every day-to-day classes, simply because we have a staff of 7, I believe, right now, and we just want to give them as much opportunity as possible. And we actually anticipate hiring 2 to 3 people over the course of about a year from now, simply because we just hope to grow. And that's a great question about youth. We do, in Santa Cruz, we operate both CrossFit Kids and CrossFit Teen programs, with about 11 or 12 being the cutoff between those 2 programs. Both are successful. We're in negotiation with a charter school very near our current facility to do some PE classes at our gym. We do yearly benefits, things like obstacle courses and stuff like that, which are quite fun. But the CrossFit program is really designed for anybody, from kids as young as 4, 5, 6, all the way up to, like, for example, I mentioned my mother, who is almost 70 right now. And the idea being is that these are movements that everybody does every single day. Just throughout the course of your day, you perform dozens, if not hundreds of squats, think about every time you get off a chair. So we just make it so that you learn how to do that even more effectively. Less strain on the knees, less strain on the lower back. And so there's a whole range of athletes involved. So for a 5-year-old child or a 70-year-old grandmother, in my mother's case, obviously being more athletic, being more explosive is different than, say, for example, with someone who is looking to become a college football player. And it's that scaling, that universal scaling, which makes it completely applicable to children, teenagers, young adults, middle-aged people such as myself, and then, of course, into what we call the masters category. So we definitely will be establishing children and teens programs, as well as we hope to be working with some of the local athletes out of, say, for example, Watsonville High School.
I just wanted to follow up and say it's very exciting that this opportunity has come to Watsonville, considering the obesity rates and considering the high population of young people in our community. And I also want to mention that I did hear a little bit about your success in Santa Cruz, and I want to congratulate you for that.
Thank you.
And thank you for being here. A good presentation so far.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Other questions for the applicants? I have a couple of questions. So your hours are going to be from 6 to 8, or?
Yes, the overall hours will be, I would say, 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. There are gaps in there where we aren't officially open and that we don't have a class running. Trainers generally are in and out at that time, training individual and private clients, and then sometimes we have, after school groups of kids come in. But officially 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. with a big focus in the morning, a little bit of a lunchtime rush, and then an after work focus.
And now that you've had your business in Santa Cruz for a few years, how many people make use of your facilities, more or less? I mean, is there peak months or low months, or, is summer better than other times? Or?
New Year's resolutions are great. It is somewhat seasonal. We do see a large increase in January. We see also generally a large increase in the beginning of summer. We see a pretty big tail off at the end of summer. There's that sort of back to school, back to work grind that you start to see in September. So we're pretty quiet in the September, October month. But it's still relatively consistent year round. And the membership base, it is, much smaller because of the style of program, whereas, a typical 24-hour fitness or Gold's Gym relies on thousands of members. After 5 years of operating, our membership in Santa Cruz is roughly between 150 and 170. So we expect to be hopefully topping out in the 50 to 70 person range by the end of this year here in Watsonville. And that would be a consistent base with other people coming in to kind of filter in privates and youth programs on top of that.
And your membership are men and women, adults and children, teenagers?
It's really all walks of life, and to me that's the most fascinating part about the community it builds. Is there's not a lot of places where you have a 16-year-old who's training for soccer and a 55-year-old lawyer and a 70-year-old grandmother working out next to each other and talking to each other and getting along. So, when you sweat together and work hard together, it tends to bridge a lot of those traditional gaps.
Thank you. Other questions for the applicants? Jenny?
I have a last question. With the youth groups that you're talking about, the school age groups, any of your employees, are they required to take any background checks before they work with any young people?
Yes, so and the funny thing is, even we wanted to, we wouldn't be able to get away with it because the larger organization of CrossFit Inc. requires that anybody running a CrossFit Kids program be certified in CrossFit Kids, meaning they've gone through a thorough background check and an extensive training program to work with those kids. So we would not choose to, nor are we allowed to, employ anyone in a kids program who is not certified as CrossFit Kids trained.
And that includes the background check.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Other questions for applicants? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Like to open the public hearing. Is there anyone in the audience who wants to address this item? Who wants to speak on this item? Anyone from the audience who wants to address this item? If not, I'd like to close the public hearing and bring it back to the commission for motion and/or discussion, or discussion and/or motion. Do I hear a motion? Dobie?
I move.
Been moved that we accept staff recommendation. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mireya. Any discussion on the motion? Roll call. And the motion is to accept staff recommendation.
Corley,
Yes.
Dana,
Yes?
Gomez Contreras,
Yes.
Gonzalez,
Yes.
Jenkins,
Yes.
Sarmiento,
Yes.
Castillo.
Yes. Motion passed unanimously. Congratulations and huge success, and welcome back to Watsonville. I'd like to move on to item 5.2, a public hearing to consider an application for a special use permit with environmental review to modify an existing 27,000 square foot industrial building to allow establishment of a student charter school, SIBA, at 260 Riverside Drive, filed by Tom Brown, the applicant. Again, we'll have staff presentation. The applicant will then make a presentation, a public hearing, and then the commission discussion. We will have a public hearing, so those of you who want to speak on this item, be sure and fill out one of the yellow cards. Si quiere hablar sobre este asunto de la escuela Saiba, por favor, aquí hay unas tarjetas que tienen que firmar, tienen que llenarlas antes que hablen. And there's some, I think there's some, hay más asientos aquí enfrente. I think there's some extra chairs here in front if some of you want to move up. Si se quieren sentar, creo que hay otros asientos aquí enfrente. I think there's a few chairs up here.
Hey, Joe, I'm going to have to recuse myself.
Oh, that's right. And you've got to leave the...
I've got to leave the building. I'd just like to announce that with some counsel, I've decided I need to recuse myself. My daughter is a student at SIBA. So good luck. Thank you.
Rick is a critical swing vote, so this might be very dramatic. No. And not only does Rick has to recluse himself, he's got to leave the chambers here, so don't go too far because we'll call you back. We'll first have staff presentation. Keith?
Thank you, Chair Castillo, members of the commission and the community. I'm Keith Boyle with Community Development Department. Tonight's application is for the relocation of the SABA Charter School from the downtown location, two locations that are currently at, to 260 Riverside Drive, which is an existing warehouse building, approximately 27,000 square feet, in order to accommodate a consolidated 525 student charter school, which includes both junior high and high school classes. Previously, this building was a DHL delivery. It was a storage area for Nordic Naturals and also Fox Storage. So this is a allowed use in the IP zone with a special use permit from the Planning Commission if it's determined that it's compatible with adjacent uses. We have determined after analysis that the project is consistent with surrounding uses, and we'll talk a little bit more about that. It's located at the in Locust Street and West Riverside Drive. It's bounded primarily by residential on the back and the side of the property. You've got Elixir Distributing on the opposite side, and then there's a storage area in the front. So the use of this as a school will not be impacted by noxious uses and other things that could be located in the IG district. As proposed, the school is proposed to operate from 7:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. 5 days a week with select evening and weekend events for the school. The project is proposed as a 10-year lease while the board looks for a permanent location to create a final area for the Saba Charter School. Primary access will occur off of Locust Street to reduce conflicts with Highway 129. There is limited amount of parking at this location. Currently, there's 43 spaces. There's 23 teachers that are proposed. Because of the limited parking, there will be a condition that no students be allowed to park at this location. There'll be a pickup and drop off, which we'll talk about in regards to a safe routes to school proposal. It's anticipated that 20% of the kids will walk and ride on their own to this location. Give you an overview of the site itself. This is the building, and these are the residences that are surrounding it. This is Elixir Distributing and the existing area where it's basically location for a contractor's yard. Parking and a limited public play area. This is the layout of the school. It's significantly larger than the both combined areas that they currently occupy, and feel that this will give them room to grow in the 10 years that they are located at this. As part of the environmental review, we looked at this. We required that a traffic study be prepared to determine if there were going to be any significant impacts of the community. Traffic study was prepared by RBF and found that it would generate approximately 470 trips in the morning, with 259 coming in, 212 going out, primarily using Locust Street. It found that there was 313 trips with 147 going into the location and 166 coming out. The traffic study did not anticipate that there were going to be any impacts to existing intersections or any modifications needed to serve this facility. The proposal has separate drop-offs for junior high and high school, different locations around the building. And there are a limited play area, and Mr. Brown can talk about what the students will be doing for recreational aspects of this. This is some architectural renderings of what the school will look like once it is rehabbed. Will be a nice addition to the community, although it won't be very visible. It's pretty far back, and you have to get onto the site to actually see the location. Some of the additional conditions that we're recommending be put on this, again, no student parking on site, that you can only use Riverside, no use of Riverside Drive for access or egress, with only access by emergency vehicles allowed. A safe route to school plan will have to be developed, which indicates how the students will get there the most safe route by either bike or by walking or for student drop-off. Additionally, the automatic sprinkler system that's in the building will have to be updated to meet the school requirements in the building code. With that, staff is recommending that the Planning Commission approve the project based on the findings and the conditions that are staff report, and that concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Keith. Any questions for staff?
Got one.
Marty?
On the backside of the building between Elixir and the school, is there going to be a fence all the way down to Riverside, or does it end at the corner there with a fence, a gate?
There's an existing concrete fence that goes along the backside of the property here and along this side. So there's an existing concrete 8-foot tall fence in those locations. I don't think that there is any other additional fencing proposed.
So the backside in between, there's no fence, it's wide
Well,
open?
is this, what are you calling the backside? This is
No, go up and down.
over here?
No.
Over on this location, there's a chain link fence
Okay.
right now that separates the two, and the chain link fence has slats. So I don't anticipate there to be any additional fencing at that location.
Are you going to be putting a gate at the end? Are you going to be putting a gate at the end?
No. I don't think we would.
And the reason behind that?
I mean, we could do something like bollards or something to just prevent.
I mean, you're saying that we don't want people to enter or exit from there?
Yeah, it's a shared access route, though, so it could affect Elixir. And so, I mean, that's why I have some concerns about putting gates in that this driveway access point has shared access with Elixir.
So the kids will be able to access that area?
What, this in the front, in the parking lot area?
Uh-huh.
I'll let Tom talk about how they anticipate meeting the conditions on that part of it.
Other questions for staff? Aurelio?
I have a question. In regards to Second Street, the impact that's going to occur on Second Street from the traffic that's coming onto Locust, has the residents around that neighborhood been, that issue been brought up to them?
Yeah, I mean, the notice went out to all property owners within 300 feet of this location. So as part of the public hearing, you'll hear if there are issues from surrounding residents.
Yeah, and then again, in regards to this gate, there's really minimum access to this building. And one of my concerns is the emergency access to this building for exit or entrance. And that's a real big concern for me, because this is really isolated.
Yeah, fire has looked at it and has a complete lane around the building, which has a minimum 25-foot distance, which is adequate for safety to get around that. And then they do have a area outside of the parking lot for if there was an emergency that students can congregate. But again, Tom is here and he'll be able to answer specific questions of what the requirements are to meet the school district regulations.
Other questions for staff? Jenny?
I don't know if this is a question that you would be able to answer, or perhaps the school will be able to address this. Where do most of the students who attend SEBA reside? And because you did mention that some of them will be riding bicycles to and from school.
Right. You were provided, as part of your packet, they gave you a little list that showed where all of the students reside. So that kind of gives you an idea. And then there was some rings that were prepared that indicated people that could walk or ride. So, you know, it's in your packet.
Mm-hmm. I see it. Thank you.
Dobie?
Yes, continuing the discussion about Second Street, which will be the primary way in and way out to Locust Street and then Locust Street into the school. The junction there at Walker and Second is one of those classic Watsonville deep dips. That is, you can't go over it at more than about 1 or 2 miles an hour. And I can imagine a lot of people in that school time arrival, I don't know, 8 to 9 o'clock, whatever, backing up there. Has the city considered possibly improving that entranceway to Second Street from Walker? Second Street going west from Walker.
Just so you know, Maria Esther Rodriguez, who is our traffic engineer, has just joined us. She has reviewed the traffic report, and she's prepared to address issues relating to traffic from her analysis. And to answer your question, no, there's at this time no attempt to improve the corner of Walker and Second Street. The buildings go to the property line. There's really not a lot of room for...
Well, I'm not so much concerned about the width of the street, is the way the street, Second Street, approaches and ends at Walker. If you go on the other, if you're turning the other way, going up Second eastbound towards city offices, et cetera, it's a real smooth. But if you're turning eastward off of Walker on to Second, you've got to approach that with considerable care and slowness, because it is a quite a deep descent and ascent out of.
Okay, well, I don't know if you're prepared to answer.
Yeah, good evening, Maria Esther Rodriguez from Public Works. It's certainly something we can take a look at. We haven't addressed that particular situation. It hadn't been brought up previously, but we can certainly take a look at to see what we could do to mitigate that dip. And we can look at drainage. I imagine it's they're necessary for drainage from off the streets. But again, it's something that we can look at to see if we can address that.
Thank you.
Other questions for staff? Jenny?
I have one more question. The Youth City Council, and many of them attend SEBA, did a survey about school safety and student safety, and they did bring up the issue that a lot of young people don't feel safe on that area that the commissioner is talking about, 2nd Street, Walker, and all the way to Main Street. Now, is that something that the school is taking in consideration and how they will address this?
I'm sure the school can answer, but I also know that a member of the Youth Council is here to speak on this subject. Thank you.
Great.
Possibly when we get to the public hearing, we can hear from the student. Other questions for staff? Thank you very much, Keith. Hear from the applicant, Mr. Brown.
Good evening, commissioners, members of the public. My name is Tom Brown. I'm the co-founder and executive director of SEBA Public Schools. Accompanying me this evening is Dulce Sixtos, Ulysses Cineros. They are students at SEBA. Jose Gonzalez is a father of 3 SEBA students, and Brett McFadden, the chief business officer of our authorizing agency, Pajaro Valley Unified School District, is also here this evening. Our presentation tonight is very brief. I will provide you with a snapshot of our organization, as well as some history on our search for suitable school sites within the Watsonville area. My colleagues will offer the student, parent, and district perspectives on this project, and we're happy to answer all of your questions. By way of introduction, SEBA is a public charter school. We are determined to close the college completion gap in our community. Our students are 96% Latino, 86% qualify for free or reduced price meals. Next year, we'll serve 440 students in grades 6 through 11 at 3 locations downtown. In 2007, when we first pondered the idea of opening a charter school in Watsonville, we were told to consider religious facilities for our school. It may interest you to know that there are 41 such facilities within the city limits, and we looked at all of them. Unfortunately, only 2 were available and willing to discuss the possibility of a lease to us, and one of them was occupied by a pre-existing preschool that was in the process of renewing their lease, and so that space really was not available. The second site required substantial and ultimately infeasible improvements to infrastructure and accessibility. Since then, we've served students through a patchwork of sites, including the Porter Building, the Youth Center, Cabrillo College, the Institute of Language and Culture, and commercial space in the downtown area. In our work, we believe that school culture is the most important thing we do. We strive to build places where it's safe to be smart and cool to be creative. We strive to build places where kids feel supported, where they can take chances and be respected, where they can reach beyond their accomplishments. The proposed facility at 260 West Riverside provides the single best option for SEBA that we have identified in 6 years of searching and working with city and district staff. It will allow us to consolidate our students and faculty and focus on meeting the needs of our students, their families, and our community. It gives me great pleasure to introduce Dulce and the rest of our team.
Good evening, Planning Commission. My name is Dulce Sixtos. I am currently a sophomore at Saba High School, and I had the honor of serving the Watsonville Youth City Council as the first mayor, and I have been attending Saba since the 6th grade. I want to increase the representation of Latinas in local, state, and national public office. This can be achieved through a commitment to higher education preparation. Currently, more than half of the students in our public schools in California are Latino, and half of those students are girls. If we don't educate and train Latina leaders, the large portion of the population will not have representation. Locally, we have some strong Latina women step up and serve. They inspire me. Those of you sitting on this commission and other strong women in our city council are great examples of what good education, hard work, and taking advantage of the opportunities can help youth achieve. By developing leaders within the Latino community and increasing emphasis on college preparedness, we can work to close these gaps through a pragmatic education approach. College preparatory education can change the dynamics of our seemingly ingrained social construct in which the rich get poor and the poor are not. Schools such as Saba that prove refocusing our education priorities can make a tremendous effort in the lives of those that might otherwise be left behind by the system. Thank you for considering us a home.
Good evening, Planning Commissioners. My name is Ulises Cisneros, and I'm currently a freshman at Saba High School. I may know some of you from serving in the Watsonville Youth City Council as Chief of Police. I have been attending Saba since 6th grade. My mom was one of the original mothers who helped Mr. Tom Brown start this school. My mom was one of them who were trying to create a school which prepared their students to get ready for college. Saba has given me a lot of opportunities, and there's 3 major opportunities I would like to share with you. The first has been preparing me for college, and I know they will keep continue doing that. Recently, I applied and got accepted into the Summer Math and Science Honors Academy, and which is in Cal Berkeley. I will go over there during the summer, and I'm looking forward to bringing my knowledge back to Watsonville. The third was having the honor to serve in the Watsonville Youth City Council as taking role as police chief and working along with Chief Manny Solano and along with other high school students trying to help out my community. In the future, I would like to see more students like me get the same opportunities I have been given. Thank you, and I hope we have your support.
Hello, good evening. My name is Jose Gonzalez. I have 3 kids at Saba Charter School, 2 twin daughters in 6th grade and a son in 7th. I've been asked to represent some of the parents and mainly the commitment that we have to Saba and what we believe that they're trying to accomplish and what they offer our kids. All I can say is that, as parents, we're concerned about the location, some of the traffic, the noise, then the downtime and the parking and everything that goes along with that area. We're also concerned about the building, the space, and how the students feel that they're kind of restricted in that area. I think this is an improvement for them. It's significantly larger. And mainly I think that all the students, the staff, the parents, and the students are committed, and this would provide a better place for them. So that would be, thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. My name is Brett McFadden. I'm the Chief Business Officer for the Pajaro Valley Unified School District. I'm here on behalf of our 7-member elected board to express strong support for this proposal that's before you tonight. The district and Saba have, over the past 6 years, attempted to work together in cooperation with the city officials to identify an appropriate site for Saba Charter School. And frankly, that has been a challenging situation, and at times it has challenged our relationship between the district and Saba from time to time. Nevertheless, this agreement that we were able to put together in cooperation with SABA schools and working closely with city officials, is what we feel is in the best interest not only of the school district in protecting the needs of our facilities and our students, but also in the needs of SABA's charter school by consolidating all of its programs and its students into one viable facility. We're in such strong support of this agreement that this district has put forth a package of probably the strongest, at least in my career, financial support that we can provide in terms of protection to make sure that this agreement goes through in terms of a loan to Saba Charter School, as well as an ongoing yearly assistance to Saba's Charter School over the course of the 10-year lease. The district is in strong support of this, and we had a 7-0 unanimous support for this proposal. And during this times of tough economic times for school districts and cities, of course, I think that's quite symbolic of how strong we are about this proposal. And finally, this facility will then gets us past the issue of trying to identify facilities and appropriate facilities for Saba Charter School, and will allow us to now begin, hopefully, to begin working with Saba and the district in a cooperative fashion to develop ways that we can mutually work to develop unique and specific programs for the students that we serve in this community. So happy to answer any questions you have, and again, the school district is in strong support of this proposal. Thank you.
Mr. Brown, why don't you just stay up here in case there's some questions from the members of the commission? Any comments for the applicant, Mr. Brown? Dobie.
Yes, Tom, I noticed in coming out the driveway onto Locust Street and visiting the site that across Locust Street, there's a large vacant lot. And I'm wondering if you've thought anything about the possible, and you're smiling, so you must have done some investigation of that parcel.
We have, Commissioner, and we're very eager and interested to open discussions with the property owner about the possibility of using it for parking.
How about playfields?
Well, playfields as well. We're also interested in identifying other playfield opportunities, and there might be a possibility at 220 Riverside for something there as well.
Thank you.
Other questions for Mr. Brown? Aurelio?
Yeah, I have a question. My concern is that the entrance and exit to your school locations, and what I got out here is the printout where it shows you little red arrows in direction of your traffic. Are you going to have people designated in certain locations during the drop-off and pickup so traffic flows and doesn't go on to Riverside? Because, I mean, one of the things would be they're going to want to go on to Riverside and get the heck out of there as quick as they can.
Yes, that's true. In fact, on the plan, one of the things that we will do as a condition of approval is prepare a student safety plan. Our initial thinking was that there would be bollards at the end of the chain link fence that separates the property from Elixir Distributing that would prevent cars from exiting out that driveway, so that that driveway onto Riverside would remain the exclusive use of 270 Riverside or Elixir Distributing during school hours. So in addition to that safety plan, we'll also have parent volunteers stationed for traffic flow during drop-off and pickup hours.
And have you guys, I'm sure you're going to address this also for the safety of the children that are walking or riding to and from school. Right now, that area really isn't designated for crosswalks for students. It should be, because we do have quite a bit of students that go from there to Watsonville High School. So that'll be an added plus for those residents out there. But you will have a plan, and that will be included in all this, correct?
It will be.
Jenny?
And this is a follow-up to the question that I had earlier about safety, student safety around certain neighborhoods that were identified as students not feeling safe in that environment.
That's a very good question. I sort of have to go back to 2007 when we moved into the Porter building. I had a brief conversation with one of the patrol officers from Watsonville Police Department, and I started to apologize for the impact that our students had downtown, particularly Main and Maple. And he said, wait a minute, you don't have anything to apologize for. Since your families and the students have moved into the Porter building, our violent crime is down considerably in this neighborhood, and we think it's because you have parents on the street corners watching the young people who have too much time on their hands. So I don't know if that's borne out by the law enforcement statistics, but as you can see, we do have a very large and committed group of parents who are dedicated to their student safety. And we feel that this is a wonderful opportunity to try to help improve conditions in that neighborhood.
Other questions? Corley, Marty.
Excuse me. Going back to the loop around the building.
Yes.
You're saying you're putting bollards in between Elixir and the school. So that means for the safety of the kids, they could walk across freely?
At the south end of the driveway, yes, there would be bollards there so that they could access the school building from that driveway. There would be no car traffic allowed there.
Can I, on that, follow up on that question on the bollards, and that's where my concern is if you close that access off, how's the fire department going to have access to your building or your students when they need to exit the building? I mean, you're boxing yourself in, and you're only allowing yourself one entrance and exit if you put bollards on that.
Well, I'm sure there.
And then the follow-up on the concern is of, again, student safety for the fact that we do have a storage facility that stores alcohol right next to it is a big concern. How are you not going to have your kids flow over? That's, I guess, one of the questions that are being asked here.
If I could address the bollard issue, the fire department did approve this, as shown. But we have bollards in fire traffic lanes throughout the city, and think Target, the driveway between Target and Ramsey Park. It's a fire lane. It's got bollards, and all the fire departments have the master key for all bollards. So if they needed to use that, they would remove the center one and they could go through. We just don't have a key to drive ourselves through there. So if the fire department wanted additional access, they would just specify which type of bollard they should use so that the fire engine could drive through there if necessary, even though they didn't make it a condition. But as they get their building permit, if that comes up, that's easily remedied in that the fire department does have a method for driving through bollard areas. So when it's going through plan check, it could come up, but it's a simple, different type of bollard. It's not permanent. It's got a key and it comes off.
Yeah, I'm aware of that, and that's what I kind of want to hear.
Yeah,
The
it could be
school's
a
also going to have that access to
Yeah.
those removal of those bollards.
It could be a condition of approval from the fire department.
Exit.
Yeah, it's an easily.
My concern is more if they need to exit their building for any reason.
Yeah.
I want to make sure that these kids are safe and can get out of there. Because as it is, we have big facilities, big school facilities that have to address these issues. Nowadays, unfortunately, the conditions that we have to live under, and that's my main concern, is
Yeah.
that the school and the students are able to exit that building safely. Because as being a parent and understanding the conditions that when there's something that's happening at your school, first thing that happens is parents go to the school.
Yeah.
So there's an influx of bodies at that school. So, and that's a concern for me. That's where I'm trying to address that.
Yeah, and as I said, a condition of approval during the building plan check could be that it be a removable bollard that only the fire department has access to.
Other questions for Mr. Brown? Mireya?
If it's in the report, I missed it, but how many high school students do you have at Seba? And of those, how many drive to school?
Well, we have 135 high school students this year, and none of them drive and park at school. We're laddering up next year. We'll have 11th graders. There will probably be some percentage of those who...
I have one more question. You mentioned earlier that you were I don't remember your exact words, but you were exploring the possibility of using the empty lot across the street from where Seba School would be located as possible parking. How far along is that? Has there been a conversation started, and how far along is that? And
we've just identified the property owner. We have not had a conversation with them.
Thanks.
Other questions for Mr. Brown? Members of the commission?
I just got a comment. Actually, driving around Watsonville, seeing Seba playing in the park, baseball was kind of interesting. It kind of, made downtown feel a little alive, seeing those kids out there and hitting that ball and playing baseball. Again, hopefully you guys can get a lot, so we can have our kids also have some physical activity.
Other questions, Mireya?
Along those lines, I too have seen students play in the large grassy area next to El Alteños, and that's been really satisfying to see. I wondered if Seba were to establish the school where you're requesting to open, where would you go have PE classes? Because just let me follow up with that. There was one section in the report that used this wording, and I want to just read it because it says, the site has limited outdoor activity potential, which is one drawback of this proposed site. So I wondered what your thinking is around that.
Well, I would offer that there are very few perfect sites available in Watsonville, and what we had proposed to do for physical activity was create a number of spaces on the driveway that surrounds the building for grade level exercise. And we are kicking around all sorts of possible activities, including some sort of CrossFit light, if you will, where students exercise without machines for physical activity. But we have used the city park. We've also used the youth center. And we pride ourselves on trying to do as much as possible with what we have. And I think what you will see is a number of very creative solutions to the physical activity question during the school day. I don't yet know what they are or what they'll look like, but I can assure you that that's top of mind for us and for our students.
I have two more questions, really. One is, what kind of parent involvement has there been in the thinking around moving into this new location? And also, why don't you answer that one first, because I'm trying to think of my second one.
Sure. Parental involvement, I think that our parents, if you ask them, they would be disappointed that they didn't know more about this opportunity sooner. I think that the truth is we've looked at a lot of places over the years, and I would say that one of the hardest things I've had to deal with is letting parents know that we won't move into an expected facility because it didn't work out for one reason or another. And so we purposely tried to get as far as we could on the planning process. And once we receive the conditional use permit and conclude negotiations with the landlord, then we'll really engage our parents in the school design process.
And my second question is, what would happen if you don't get this location? Just to think of extremes, sometimes that's helpful to kind of put things into context.
Certainly. Well, we would go to Plan B. And Plan B involves continued use of the Porter Building. continued use of the Institute of Language and Culture, and continued use of commercial space downtown. We see that as having a limited timeline, limited possibility for us, and we would likely be forced to consider other commercial spaces within the city. So Plan C and D.
Other questions, Dobie?
Yeah, this is a question both for Tom and for Marcella. On Airport Boulevard, the county has a former Methodist church and school with the old Roach School building behind it. Have you ever, do you know what the status is, Marcella, on the county's use? It's an alternative school, alternative high school. And it's owned by the Methodist Church, to the best of my knowledge. And it has a large playing field behind it, and a school building with perhaps 10 or 12 classrooms, and then a large chapel area, so on and so forth. It's used as a school and as a church by a religious group. Any information on that? Have you ever?
We did look into that early on. I don't have any current information on that side.
Mm-hmm.
We've been working with the applicant as a city for a very long time. Actually, since they first moved into the Porter building, we have been working on the
Right.
permanent facility. I promised the school district, I promised Nancy Bilisich that I would give her adult ed building back. She said 1 year, and it turned into 2 or 3. But, you know, it is best for the students to be together. We have, with Tom Brown and the school, looked at so many sites and analyzed so many sites. I have to admit, if somebody asks me what is the best location to put a school, this is not the first location that comes to my mind. But after exhausting all the possibilities of what they could and couldn't do, and what would work and wouldn't work, and what the impacts would be, we have determined that this is the best location they were able to find. And we have had bi-weekly meetings to keep on top of this project for years. I mean, this is not something that just came up. So we have worked on it. We have looked at a lot of sites. There's some sites that they looked at that weren't in the best interest of economic development uses. And so they have worked with us to not tie up sites that have viable commercial uses and retail uses. So it's been a give and take and a working relationship over the last 3 years at least.
Brett, do you know anything about that school? It's a county alternative high school in at the near the corner of Loma Prieta and Airport, between Airport Road and Loma Prieta.
Thank you. I have limited knowledge of the project, but don't have any date as to when they're planning to break ground on that and move forward.
Well, it's used now.
Oh, okay.
It's
I'm
used
sorry,
now
I'm
as an alternative school, I believe entirely for high school students who simply aren't fitting someplace else.
Right.
Okay, I'm just curious. Thank you.
If I may just speak to that,
Yeah.
I've actually been inside that facility. It's an alternative school, and it seems a little small, I think, for the size of school that SEBA is, is in actuality. Forget the name of that school.
Other questions for Mr. Brown? Jenny?
Well, this is more of a comment. I'm still not satisfied with the answer about the safety, school safety, and student safety around certain neighborhoods that the students themselves have identified as being unsafe. So is it possible to get a report back on something more detailed on how you will address safety and in certain areas in the community as the students have identified as being an unsafe area?
We can certainly bring a report back. They won't be able to move into this facility until the next school year, not this coming up school year, the following 2014. So we have plenty of time to work with them. on a program. As I said earlier, 2 of the students that spoke are in the youth council. And so we have always talked about a safe routes to school, but you've seen the commitment of the parents. You know, I wouldn't be surprised to find a parent in every corner along the route to school until the students get used to it. There's a lot of things that I'm sure the parents will come up with together. I can't imagine that they would expose their children to something that the children are afraid of. But since Dulce was one of the ones that worked on the questionnaire, maybe she would like to address how she feels about working in that area.
So we worked on the second survey the first survey with like the police department, and we found that students around this area don't feel safe, but we feel that once students get to an area, they will make the place much safer, because I don't know if you've seen SEBA students roam around these streets really freely, and so it makes the area much safer. So we as SEBA, I think I could say, talk for all SEBA students, but we walk around with a lot of kind of confidence, and we feel safe around the city.
Also, we have approached, unfortunately, some crime happening. This year, I believe, or last year, 2012, 2013, there was a crime just close by our school. A few years ago, there was also one, but the SEBA community has worked so hard to keep us safe, the parents as well, and fortunately, with their help and with all of the SEBA community, we have been safe and nothing bad has happened, and yeah.
I also wanted to point out that when we were doing the survey, the students that are in the council from like PV and Watsonville, they didn't feel safe around this area, and we questioned why they didn't feel safe, and they said it was like, oh, we're not really around this area, and we said, well, we feel safe. Why? Well, why is it? It's because we're always here. So I think that just that by students being in one area, they make the area around it much safer.
Thank you. Oh, go ahead.
Also, by that, we would improve the neighborhood, because students would be more likely to approach the place where we are, and that, as Dulce said, the students would become more familiar with it and therefore feel more safe in that space. Thank you.
Thank you. Any more questions?
Yeah, I have one for Mr. Brown, or Tom. Currently, you're in different buildings, correct? You're spread out. So when you're spread out, your grade levels are spread out also, correct?
That's correct.
Now that you're going to consolidate, or we're going to try to attempt to consolidate the school as one, how are you going to work it so that the different age levels, I mean, you got a 6th grader and you got an 11th grader, now they're going to have to live together as a community.
That's right.
Knowing a 6th grader doesn't understand an 11th grader, because the 6th grader thinks an 11th grader is like an old person. You're going to have those conflicts. In your facility here, in your just simple diagram, most likely it's not going to be what you're going to come up with at the end of it all. How are you going to create that separation for these students to feel safe, so they don't, I hate to use that word, but feel like they're being bullied by the other older students, or a younger student bullying an older student?
That's a very good question. I'd start by inviting you to SEBA, because I think what you would see is a very distinctive school culture, and it is one in which the young students look up to and respect the older students, and the older students feel a sense of responsibility for our younger students. And it's quite remarkable, actually. And it was one of the reasons that we were so intent on finding a single site that would allow our school to combine the grade levels. That said, within the building itself, we have a number of proposals that we're sort of thinking about at the moment with the design team, and we'd like to test out with students and parents, but they involve setting up mini campuses within the building where grade levels would take classes and have break space or small group space that might be separate from the upper classes. So we're looking at lots of different ways to address the various needs of the specific age groups.
Other questions? Mireya?
I want to say that it looks like you and your team have been working really hard to find a location that you think will work for SEBA. And I wondered if you're actively still recruiting students at all for all grade levels, and what you expect in terms of growth, and how. I mean, in the report by staff, it says that you're going to be actively looking for a permanent location, that this is a temporary place. And so if you, I mean, what are the chances of you outgrowing this facility very soon, is my question.
It's a good question. As a public charter school in California, we are obligated to have a public lottery for enrollment in the event that applications exceed the number of spaces available. We feel that 525 students is a nice small school size that will allow us to deliver the SEBA program in a way that we think benefits our students. We don't believe that it will be necessary to grow beyond that at this site. In the future, our plan has always been to offer K through 12. So to provide a K-5 school experience, we would have to do that at another site within the city. But that's a much longer conversation at some point way in the future.
Thank you.
Other questions? I have a couple of questions or issues. One has to do with lunch and eating. Currently, your students can go to Subway, Frijolitos, Taylor's Hot Dogs.
Not at SEBA.
Not at SEBA? They all bring their lunch?
They all bring their lunch or they eat SEBA food. I will say, and this may not be popular with all parents, and certainly not with the majority of students, but we have a closed campus. And our 10th graders will back me up on this. It's not always pleasant, but we do that for a reason. We want our kids to be safe above all, and closed campus is the only way we know right now to ensure their safety when they're spread out on 3 separate campuses.
So it's a closed campus, so staff and students, they're there 8 to 5 or whatever time?
That's correct.
Okay. The second thing has to do with traffic. I want to go back to traffic again. I went to look at the site, and off Riverside Drive, the staff reports points out that the main entrance and exit will be on Locust, but you can get into the site through Riverside, either for students or parents or the general public. That will not be closed, will it, Riverside? You can go in and out?
We've been talking about potentially putting bollards at that access point.
Pedestrian access.
Pedestrian access, but.
No, but automobile, I mean.
No.
Currently you could.
Currently you can go in and out.
Currently you can, but we were recommending to put bollards to close vehicle access to that. That there is a condition that they're not supposed to use Riverside for vehicle, and the bollards is probably your best solution.
But will that impact the businesses that are next to the school?
No, you would have to put the bollards like somewhere up in this location so you don't affect the driveway itself, but somewhere where there is a fence in this location.
Yeah, there is this fence, but you can still get to these businesses down here.
The other portion of the driveway splits off over here, so if you put bollards around this
Right there.
location, then
So you would close it there.
You would close it about here, and then it would
Okay.
restrict vehicle circulation on site, but still allow pedestrian circulation.
And then these businesses down here on the left, you could still get in and out off
Yeah,
Riverside.
it won't, as long as you keep the bollards up
Right.
close to the school location, it won't affect the driveway for the other businesses.
Okay. That was not clear. Any other questions? Thank you, Mr. Brown.
Thank you, commissioners.
This is a public hearing, so I'd like to open it up. Any members of the audience wants to speak, either supporting or against this, please come up. Maybe if you've already spoken, do you want to speak again? I mean, you know, you're... yeah.
Good evening. My name is Crystal Moore. I'm the assistant principal at Saba Middle School, and this is Jackie Separito. She's our current 6th grade math teacher. We actually felt the need to come up and speak because the only group that hasn't been represented right now is the actual teachers and staff of Saba. So if you'd allow me, I'd like to represent the high school and the middle school staff, and Jackie will represent the actual teachers. I just wanted to talk about 3 quick things that may answer some of your questions or help answer some of your questions. To start off, I would like to say that the Saba staff is one of the most passionate staff that I have worked with in the last 7 years. I was previously at a different Watsonville school, and this staff has the drive and the want to help students get to college and through college, and that is their #1 goal. And for the last 5 years, they have worked with what they've had and have tried to provide the absolute best education they can for these students. And today, we actually had a very long meeting discussing room movements for next year because our numbers are starting to get big, and we really need to provide the space that our students can learn best in. And we are really excited with the hope that there will be adequate space for all of our students to learn so that they will be able to use math manipulatives and do science experiments and all the things that they have a right to be doing and will help them learn. Secondly, I'd like to address the safety concerns. Our parents are asked and required to participate in 25 hours of volunteer hours. And we have an excellent parent group that we call the Giving Tree. And they have been chaperoning dances, and they have been taking on the safety of our students on their own. And I'm confident that this parent group can also take on providing the safety that is needed for the surrounding area until Saba can provide that safety on their own. Jackie will also talk a little bit about a web group and link crew that we're starting at the middle school and high school that will provide a transition for 6th grade students and for 9th grade students to help them transition into middle school and high school. And we also hope that this will increase the safety at our school, which may address the bullying issue that was presented. And lastly, I'd like to give, for lack of better terms, some major props to our PE teacher, who I'm not sure if she's in the building, but she has worked with little to no space this year, and she's really excited about exercise and really excited about helping our scholars learn to love exercise in the small amount of space that she's had. She has moved from the field to the youth center to the courtyard to anywhere that is open, and I'm confident that even given the little space that we may have at Riverside, that she will keep students excited and wanting to continue on with this. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Jackie Saporito. I am actually a first-year teacher at Saba. So while I may not have the experience that a lot of my colleagues here have, I do have a really strong passion, like Mrs. Moore said, about the values of Saba and what we're working towards. When I first interviewed at Saba, the school year had already started, and they asked me to come and do a demo lesson. And when I walked into the room that I was going to be teaching in, I almost turned around and left. It's tiny. The kids are sitting on top of each other. There's a little sign by the door that says maximum occupancy 24. And there were well over 30 students in the room. It's very cramped. We do what we can for our students, and we would learn to work with what we have, but we could be doing so much more for our students if we were given the opportunity to have some more space for them so that when they open their binder, they're not on top of somebody else's binder, or when they stand up, they're not falling over someone's backpack. I know Tom has done a lot of work trying to find a facility that is perfect for Saba, and there may not be one that's perfect, but this is a huge opportunity for us to meet the needs of our students and to help them to grow. Regarding safety, as a first-year teacher at Saba and as a sixth grade teacher, which is the lowest grade that we currently serve, I was not really familiar with the Second Street and the Main Street environment. I was surprised by the findings of the Youth City Council. We are starting a program next year that's going to link our 8th grade students to our 6th grade students and our 11th grade students to our 9th grade students. And the whole point of the program is to help the incoming students feel more comfortable and safe with the environment. It's an ongoing program. It's already started this year, kind of paving the way for what it will look like next year. But it's meant to bring an even stronger sense of community to our school. With regard to safety, the sixth grade teachers and I have already talked about concerns that we have with students feeling safe coming to school, and we're already problem solving that. So the findings of the Youth City Council, while they are alarming, there's something that we're aware of and that we are really, really, really trying to make sure that we address as we move forward. We have amazing parents, amazing staff that will do, I'm confident, whatever we need to do to make sure that our students' needs are being met. So, one more thing.
And really quick, on behalf of the high school, our high school began last year, so this is in their second year, and each year they've had to move to a different location. And one reason that this is important to me is that high school is, the last step before college, and I really believe that it's important for our high schoolers to have a place where they can be and they can make their own, because I know that some students have left Saba because they're not sure what's going to happen next year. And I hope that with this space that we can reassure parents that we have a space that their student can continue to prepare for college and be ready to go when the time comes. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other speakers? This is a public hearing. Speakers have 3 minutes. Please introduce yourselves.
Good evening. My name is Yolanda Deana, and I'm a parent. My daughter started in 6th grade when the school first opened in 2008. 2007, about in December, she was in a private school and it wasn't working out for her. So I started looking for another school for her. And when I look at the plan, a friend, of course, mentioned about Saba. So I look at the plan and I like everything that I saw. One of the things that they promised 2007, they said, we will have a safe academic environment for our students. We will provide college prep courses. We will reach their maximum potential. We will do better on the test scores. We will have longer academic years. We will have longer academic hours. And one thing that I'm very proud to mention, and they told us, we will have great teachers. And I still remember teachers from 6th grade. Some, they're gone, but they're still in our hearts, not only the parents, but also on the students. That's one thing that they have done an excellent job with our teachers. All of our teachers are excellent. They also promised us a facility, a place that we can call home. And it's been 5 years, and we still have not got that. And it's not because they haven't done their job. I know they have. And I'm here because I want to ask you to please, at this time, help them and help us, parents and students, to know where we're going to be next year. Please approve this facility. It's the beginning of our new home. It might not be a permanent home, but it's the beginning. Thank you very much.
Thank you. This is a public hearing, so those of you who want to address this item, please step up to the podium. Anyone else wants to address this item? Support or not supporting?
No hablo mucho inglés, ¿puedo hablar español?
Sí. Ah, bien, sí. Su nombre, por favor.
Mi nombre es Abelina Tapia y soy la mamá de una estudiante que empezó el año del 6º grado ahí y va a empezar mi otro niño. Y estoy tan agradecida con la persona que abrió esta escuela porque Mi niña, de pasar a ser una persona que estaba haciendo bullying, después ella empezó a hacer bullying a somebody else y sus grados empezaron a ir hasta abajo. Hasta que entró a esta escuela, todo cambió. Ella volvió a subir sus grados hasta arriba. Como persona también ha sido una persona totalmente diferente. Tienen un sistema de trabajo, a lo mejor a ellos no les agrada mucho, pero me encanta y estoy muy agradecida, estoy muy contenta con la escuela y yo también quiero como padre pedirles que nos den el soporte para la escuela. De verdad, esta escuela hace mucho la diferencia con los niños, con los grados, con la manera como cambian de comportamiento. Es muy, muy buena el sistema que tienen y ayuda mucho para prevenir vandalismo, bullying y todo eso. Y como papás nos involucramos mucho porque tenemos que donar horas, estamos cuidando cuando cruzan los niños, no sé, como que juntan todo y al final termina un conjunto muy bueno y salen cosas muy buenas, niños muy, muy buenos de ahí. Y yo quiero pedirles también que soporten, porque yo no quiero que esta escuela desaparezca, yo quiero que mis niños sigan yendo a esta escuela y que también la Ceiba High School siga para que mi niña, en vez de ir a high school normal, vaya a Ceiba High School. Me siento muy, muy, ¿cómo se diría? Muy segura de que mi niña vaya a esta escuela. Y mis otros niños que siguen también. Por favor, hagan soporte para aprobar esta escuela.
Gracias, muchísimas gracias. We'll get a translation.
Hang on.
Are we waiting?
We're going to get the translation first.
My name is Avelina Tapia, and I am the mother of one of the students who started in the 6th grade. My other kid will also start there. I am grateful with the persons who funded this school because my daughter went from being bullied, and then she started bullying someone else, and her grades started going down until she started in this school, and then everything changed. Her grades went up. As a person, she is a very different person. At the school, they have a very different way of doing things. Maybe the students don't like it, but I like it. I am grateful with the school. I am very happy with it. As a parent, I also want to ask for your support. I want to ask for your support because this school makes the difference with the students, with grades, the way in which they change the students' behaviors. Their system is great, and it really helps to prevent vandalism, bullying, and things like that. And as parents, we also get involved. We have to volunteer hours. We also have to take care of the students, watch them as they cross the street. So I don't know how to say it, but at the end, I think they put everything together, and at the end, good things come out. And we end up with very good kids, and so I also want to ask you to support this because I don't want the school to disappear. I want my kids to continue going to this school. I also want that Ceiba High School continues so that my daughter can go to Ceiba High School. I don't want her to go to another high school. And I don't know how to say it, but I feel good, I feel safe that my daughter is in this school, and that I also want my other kids to go there. So please, please support this school proposal. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Anthony Tapiz, and I'm a proud parent of a 8th grade graduate of Ceiba. And, you know, this is a pivotal point in our community. The air is electrifying. In a few minutes, they're going to start counting votes on change. And I was reminded of the change in this very spot when I saw an old photo of the stores that used to be right here before the earthquake. And, you know, this is a time where
we can't be afraid to do new things. And I think if I didn't want to come up here and say if you build it, they will come, because it's built and we're already here. So it's elementary here. If you can give us a school, the students are going to do great. They're going to be great model citizens from Watsonville. I'm always proud of how my kids represent their school and their community when we're outside of this, outside of Watsonville, and I see that in all of these students. Great kids, great staff. Please give us this facility. Thank you.
Thank you.
Adding back on the safety issue, one of the reasons we gave out the survey was because the chief wanted to get information of where the youth felt safe and where they needed to improve. So in 2nd Street, we saw that many of our youth didn't feel safe, and the police department has been working with us with those results. They're using us as reference to see where they can improve, and I think in the future they will consider increasing the safety in the area that around 2nd Street. Thank you.
Thank you. This is a public hearing. For those wanting to please come up and speak on this item.
Good afternoon, you guys. Well, the coyotes come up. More here, but they took off. Good afternoon. My name is Jesse Ramirez. I'm the athletic director for Pajaro Valley Unified School District. I serve Alianza Charter, SEBA, Lynn Scott, and Pacific Charter School of the Arts, and also Watsonville School of the Arts. The students behind me are my former students. Some are in high school, some are in middle school. To kick back a little bit what you were concerned about, the community, their safety, the commitment of parents. As an athletic director and coach for some of the students that are here and some of them are absent, I could guarantee you their loyalty, their support. They come from the Fox Theaters, the Main Street, right? We're at Alianza, past the fairgrounds. That's where Alianza Charter School, that's where we practice at. Every day they're there. They carpool, they're there, they find ways to get them practices. Before, we used to go to Hollister and Rancho, which is in Mace. Some students, for the time they couldn't get out, they will carpool from Watsonville all the way to Hollister and back. So that's one commitment that I have seen from these parents, working with Mrs. Shen, Mrs. Butler from the high school level. This commitment of these parents, some of you don't know how hard they work and how committed they are. I was shocked to see that. I've seen parents in my school, Alianza, because those kids are there, but these parents transporting students every day to practice. It's out of their way every day. It's not just across the street. They're there every day for practices, rain or shine, they're there. Also, one of the concerns these students have, as you can see, you mentioned, they play in the Main Street in the grass area. With this area, with this building that I see, I could imagine a lot of possibilities. As a coach, as a director, the kids and parents ask me, Coach, director, when are you going to get sports for SEBA? And I tell them, there's public schools, small like York, Trinity, up in Monterey, St. Catalina, that we played before at the junior high level, with like AMSAR. There's possibilities for sports, but we do need a bigger facility. After school, when all the kids are out, that facility, which is shipping and receiving for UPS or DLH, whatever it was, big ceilings, you could do portable gym inside there, start with a small group. This will help the students bring joy to their eyes because they do love sports. The parents and students always ask me, Coach, where do I go for high school? I said, you know what? I value education. I will go to SEBA, but you are great athletes. That you have to talk to your parents. It's a big issue when parents have to choose sports, education. Of course, I always value education. I say, whatever you learn, nobody in the world could take that away from you. Some of you members up there know me for years. I taught his daughter. She's a former Coyote too. So they know the commitment I put in, the commitment they put in. So I urge you, just think of the students. This facility, I can make them run around the building if they have to. It's not me.
Your 3 minutes
okay,
are up.
So, well, I just urge you, and please consider this larger facility for them to grow. Thank you.
Thank you. This is a public hearing. Anyone who wants to address the Planning Commission on this item?
Hi, my name is Anna Rodriguez. I'm a parent of two students at Ceiba. One is in middle school, actually she just promoted, and the other is an 11th grader. And I wanted to talk about the bullying issue. My 8th grader, my youngest one, she was always a shy little girl and didn't like to talk really to anybody. Ceiba has really flowered her. She's really opened up. She's very social, and she is very excited about going to high school. She has no concerns, no worries, no fears. She is looking forward to this new experience, not because her sister's there, because they each have their own likes and dislikes, but simply because she loves the Ceiba culture, the community, just the teachers, just everybody around there. Ceiba is going to be pretty much in 3 different locations. And even though they've been in 2 separate locations, it really has been one community. They come together, everybody comes together when asked, even when it's not asked. But one facility will really make our school, our teachers, our students, our children, the scholars, will make them that much stronger, and I think make it more enriching for even the younger ones when they see the older, the ones that are in higher grades. I wanted to also mention something about the safety, about the area that you guys had mentioned several times about students not feeling safe. I had that concern actually when my 11th grader started Ceiba. She started as a 6th grader. And I was really concerned about the area myself. But I figured I'm going to give it a try. I'm going to see how it goes. I feel that my daughters are much more safer at Ceiba than they are in any other place. That's why I asked that you guys approve this facility, this place for the school, because they will, wherever they go, I know that they'll be safe. One, because it's a closed campus. Another, because the way Ceiba is, it's like one. I don't know all the parents, but I do know most of the teachers, and all the teachers, most of the teachers know all of us parents. So I feel I don't have concerns actually about the location, because I feel that it's a very safe culture and very safe environment for my daughters. That's it.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Maria Santillan, and I'm a parent of Arizelsi Viveros, and she started 6th grade this year. And she didn't want me to speak up, but I will. She's embarrassed, but it's been great. The experience has been great. When I first learned about Ceiba, I was like, okay, I gotta get my daughter in that school because it's a charter school. And it's a closed campus. So she did get into the school right away. So I was really excited. She's done really good. And the experience has been great with the teachers, with Mission, the director, and the school teachers. Everybody's great right there. And we as the Ceiba community, we might not know each other, but we all are there around the school and watching all the kids. As I volunteered, I've been watching other kids there too, because they are our kids. So yeah, I did think the same thing about that location, but we're gonna be there. So they're gonna be doing good. So please accept and accept the application and make a home for our students. Thank you.
Thank you.
Buenas tardes, mi nombre es María Boiso Díaz. Tengo 4 hijos, pero 3 están yendo en Ceiba. Yo quiero venir a decirles todo lo que significa para mí la palabra ceiba. Ceiba es un árbol muy fuerte y ceiba no es para todos, ni para todos los padres, ni para todos los alumnos, ni para todos los maestros, porque ceiba se refiere de que tiene que estar fuerte y tiene que ser padres que quieran educar a sus hijos y que tengan una buena educación, maestros que quieran enseñar, porque nuestra nación es lo que quiere, que haya personas que enseñen y alumnos que quieran estudiar y en algún día servir a la humanidad y a las futuras generaciones, porque ese es, como padres, o yo más bien como madre, me sentí, en la primera vez yo andaba buscando una escuela que me sintiera segura con mis hijos, porque los amo mucho y quiero lo mejor para ellos. Y cada padre que ama a su hijo quiere lo mejor. Lo mismo los estudiantes aman a sus padres, aman todo. Uno tiene como padre que enseñarles. Entonces, Ceiba tiene muchas cosas que me gustan a mí. Por ejemplo, sus reglas, su manera de cómo enseñan, cómo están trabajando, está muy bien, me siento contenta. Y yo he tenido un sueño desde un principio. Yo le dije a una maestra, mi sueño sería que hubiera muchas ceibas aquí en Watsonville, y no solo aquí, sino en todo Estados Unidos, porque Estados Unidos es un país grande donde se pueden lograr muchos los sueños, y mi sueño es que no solo tenga este edificio, sino uno más grande para que haya desde primaria, y los arbolitos que son los niños puedan crecer y puedan ser grandes y sirvan a la nación, porque eso es lo que queremos. Nosotros y ustedes como padres, como maestros y como los alumnos, podemos hacer la diferencia para una buena nación y no vivir como estamos viviendo hasta ahora. Gracias, les agradezco por haberme dado el permiso de venir a hablar, porque no viene nada.
Gracias. We'll now have the translation.
Van a traducir
primero.
I am Maria Boise Diaz. I have 4 children. 3 are attending Ceiba. And I want to tell you what this means to me, what Ceiba means. Ceiba is a tree, very strong tree. And Ceiba is not for everyone. Not for all the parents, not for all the students, not for all the teachers. Because Ceiba means that you have to be strong. And we gotta have parents who wanna teach their kids, and kids that wanna have a good education, teachers that wanna teach, because in this nation, that's what we want, teachers that wanna teach, students that wanna learn. And someday they can help and serve humanity and the next generations. Because as parents, or in my case as a mother, this is how I felt the first time when I was looking for a school where I would feel safe with my kids, because I love them very much and I want the best for them. Because I know that every parent that loves their children, they want the best for them. And same with the students. They love their parents, and as parents, we have to teach them. And so to me, Ceiba has a lot of things that I really like. For example, their rules, the way they teach, the way they work. It's all great, and I am very happy with that. And I've had a dream from the very beginning. I told one of the teachers, my dream would be to have many Ceibas in Watsonville, and not just here, but throughout the nation, because the United States is one huge country where we can achieve many goals, many dreams. And we don't want just this building, we want a bigger building so that we can have all the kids there, so that our students that represent mini trees, they can grow up and they can serve our nation, because that's what we really want. You and us as teachers, as parents, as students, This is what we want. We can make the difference so we can have a great nation and not continue living the way we're living up to now. Thank you. I really thank you for the opportunity to talk to you before you today because I didn't fill out a card.
Okay.
Sí, muy buenas tardes. Mi nombre es Esmeralda. Voy a hablar también en español porque lamentablemente no sé hablar inglés. Tengo dos hijos, uno en Ceiba High y en la Miriam High de Ceiba. Yo cuando por primera vez mi hijo quedó en Ceiba, yo brinqué y lloré de alegría porque dije, yo me preocupaba como madre, tal vez va a ir a la high school del centro de Watsonville, y me preocupaba porque yo quería lo mejor para mi hijo, gracias a Dios quedó, ahora va a entrar otra hija mía. Lo que sí les quiero pedir de favor que apoyen a Ceiba, y lo que les puedo decir como madre, me preocupo, si Ceiba desaparece, ¿a dónde van a ir nuestros hijos? A veces me pregunto, bueno, si llegan a ir a la escuela del centro, tal vez cientos de estudiantes se escapan y tal vez los padres trabajan. Ni siquiera se dan cuenta si los estudiantes van a la escuela o no. Acá no me preocupo yo en casa, la razón por la que mis hijos están seguros en esta escuela, no hay lugar allí ni manera que tengan que escaparse. Habemos padres que pagamos horas monitoreando a los niños y todo. Entonces hay otra cosa más importante, tal vez nadie ha hablado de drogas, pero yo las voy a decir, es un lugar que donde también los niños no pueden obtener drogas y como padres estamos seguros en casa sin preocuparnos de ellos, porque sería un lugar, la Ceiba es un lugar donde ellos ni siquiera pensarían en tomar drogas y como madre me preocupo, mis hijos a ir a otra escuela, ¿qué va a pasar con ellos? Así es que por favor les pido que sigan apoyando esta escuela que es muy buena, sobre todo los maestros, los niños. Tengo mis hijos, gracias a Dios, muy maduros, han madurado demasiado ahora que han estado en Ceiba. También los invito a ustedes, si tienen hijos, nietos, sobrinos, que los inviten a ir a la escuela Ceiba y no se van a arrepentir, y ya es todo.
Gracias. The translation, please.
I will also talk in Spanish because I don't speak much English. I have two kids, one in Ceiba, one in elementary, one in high school. At the beginning, when my son was accepted to Ceiba, I was so happy, I jumped, I was so happy, I even cried because I was worried as a mother, because I was told that he was gonna go to Watsonville High School, and I was worried. I wanted the best for him. And I thank the Lord that he was accepted, and now my daughter will also go there. And so I wanna ask you to please support Ceiba. What I can tell you as a mother is that I worried that if Ceiba doesn't exist, where would my kids go? And if they go to Watsonville High, a lot of students go out. Parents work, and they don't even know where their kids are, if they go to school or not. Here, I'm not worried about that. And the reason is because my kids are safe there. It's a closed school, they can't go out. Some of our parents spent volunteer hours monitoring students there. But I also want to talk about something important. Maybe no one has talked about it, but I'm going to talk about drugs. Kids can obtain drugs everywhere. And at Ceiba, we as parents feel safe at home because we know that Ceiba is a place where they wouldn't even think about doing drugs. And so as a mother, I worry if my kids go to another school, I worry about that. So I want to ask you to please support this school. It's a really good school. The teachers are great. The students are doing very well. I have my own kids, and they have grown up. They're very mature. They've grown up now that they're in Ceiba. And so I also want to invite you, if you have kids, grandkids, and nephews, take them to Ceiba. You'll be very glad. And that's all.
Thank you. This is a public hearing, but I've been noticing the last few minutes, it's getting late. Some of you have to work tomorrow. Some of the children are falling asleep. Some of the kids have to get to bed. Some of the young people have to go home and do their homework. Entonces, yo les quiero preguntar, porque la hora se está poniendo muy tarde y a las 9 sale mi telenovela La Patrona. No. How many of you support, show of hands, the application to move to this new facility? Thank you very much. Is there anyone else who wants to address this item? I think we know the answer from you. One more, the last comment. Either for or against.
My name's Richard Rodriguez, and the other night I'm looking at my daughter's grades, awesome, and her other classes or her other school before, they weren't as good. This school has a community that brings everyone together to strive to do better, and I think that's something that Watsonville needs and hasn't had. It's a school that kids can go to, and you know there's not going to be drugs, there's not going to be any gangs. The teachers are awesome, and I thank the teachers, and I thank administration and everything for that. I mean, they do deserve applause for what they've done. Thank you.
Thank you very much. This is a public hearing. Anyone else? I'd like to close the public hearing. How excited I am. I'd like to bring it back to the commission for a motion or discussions.
Young man had his hand up right when you said we're closing.
Was there another question? Was there? You've got 10 seconds. Hurry up.
Honestly, I don't believe it will take long because there's not much that I can say about Saba, but I can write books about it. I can write Bibles about Saba, honestly, because I don't believe words are enough to describe what Saba has done and what it is doing. I believe you have to go see the actions that are actually being taken. You have to see the things that Saba has accomplished with people. I have seen people who have thought they were gangsters. I've seen people who they've been doing drugs, but now they regret everything because they've gotten support from their teachers, they've gotten support from their fellow students, and I believe that Saba is the best community that any student can actually have. The parents are privileged, and I've also seen students, and bad teachers. And I'll tell you right now, they don't last long in Saba. So don't worry about bad students or bad teachers at Saba. Because for sure, Saba is a positive community. It is a role model for every other school. And if I see this building and all I see, it's another stair to, how can I say it, an escalator. Because it'll never stop growing. It'll always keep on going and going. And one day, I hope to see a Saba college.
Now I'd like to officially end the public hearing. I'd like to bring it back to the commission for discussion and/or motions. Marty?
I'll make a motion that we approve the special use permit.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Jenny. Any discussion?
I would like to make a comment.
Yes.
About 2 months ago, I had the opportunity to visit the school, and I was very impressed with the students and the attention and courtesy that they had for their teacher and how involved they were in the classroom activity, and I fully support their application.
One final comment. I visited Saba 2 or 3 years ago, and clearly you've got the best students there, the best teachers, but you've also got the best parents. I think the parents are the backbone of Saba, and as long as they're involved, the college, it will become a college after a short while. So I'm very supportive of the motion. Any other comments? Mireya?
I just have a question. This is for Marcela. Is it appropriate if I want to take a picture of the audience or not?
Sure. Oh, go ahead.
I'll send it to someone at the school so you can put it on your Facebook page if you have it. I want to say congratulations to all the parents. Obviously, you have demonstrated how much you want to move into this new location. And I agree, I think you're a special group of students. I think you're a special, very special group of parents. Felicidades por participar en la educación de sus hijos.
Any other comments? Can I have a roll call, please? And the motion has been moved and seconded to approve the staff recommendation for a special use permit to modify the existing industrial building to allow the establishment of a student charter school, SAIBA.
Corley,
Yes.
Gomez Contreras,
Yes.
González,
Yes.
Jenkins,
Yes.
Sarmiento,
Yes.
Castillo.
Yes. Motion passed unanimously. Thank you very much for attending our meeting and for your contributions.
Yeah, go to the CIP.
Yeah.
So pull up the CIP, get going.
We're now going back to item 5.3,
Formerly 5.1.
formerly 5.1, a public hearing to consider the Planning Commission's recommendation to the City Council to adopt the city's 2013-2015 capital improvement programs with proposed public improvements and find the projects are consistent with the general plan filed by the City of Watsonville. Again, we'll start with staff presentation and then a public hearing and discussion. And
Good
can
evening.
someone get Rick?
Coming in.
Does anybody know Rick Dana out?
Watching on TV outside.
Oh, is Rick watching it?
Rick, if you're watching, back.
Rick, if you're watching, you can't go home. You've got to come back.
I was outside just now. so.
Okay, where's Rick? Oh, there's Rick. Okay, Rick.
He's trying to.
I'm for him to make his way over.
Okay, there's Rick. Okay, start.
Ready? Okay. Good evening, Planning Commission members of the public. My name is Ezequiel Vega, Administrative Services Director. I apologize for the technical difficulties that we had initially before the presentation of this item, but now we will present the fiscal year 2013-14 and 14-15 capital improvement program. So the recommendation, not to the council, is to the Planning Commission, is to adopt the city's 2013-15 capital improvement plan with the proposed improvements, and the projects are consistent with the general plan. So that is the recommendation. According to the city's charter requirement, the Planning Commission has the power and duty to recommend approval of a coordinated improvement program of public works improvements and must find if such projects are consistent with the general plan. The CIP considers a 5-year horizon, and appropriations are approved by the council for the first 2 years. So the plan that you have before you considers a 5-year horizon as indicated in this slide, and upon your recommendation, the council will consider this for approval next week on Tuesday. Some of the highlights of the major projects of the first 2 years include $2.1 million for the airport, $75,000 CDBG, $4.1 million for gas tax, public works $850,000, and the sewer fund for $80,000. One of the differences that you will notice from previous year plans that have been presented to you before is that this plan is a lot smaller because the dollars that are available for capital improvement projects are smaller, there is less funding available. And also what we try to focus is only on the highest priorities of the departments. In the past, you may have received a longer list of projects, but not all of those projects will be available to be built because of the funding restrictions. So you can see the total amount is not significant compared to other years, but it just focuses on some of the funds that have actually funding for the projects to move forward and also on the highest priorities for the departments. The list of the projects for the next 3 years is very similar, where we have a slightly higher dollar amount, but also only focusing on what is the highest priority and considering the funding available. So the airport that has a consideration of $4.5 million, gas tax $5 million, and the sewer $800,000, solid waste a couple of $100,000. And for more details on the actual specific projects, you could see the staff report before you, where it has more detail about the projects. What I wanted to give you is just an overview of the total dollar amounts by fund. So with that, the recommendation again is that the Planning Commission adopt the 2013-15 Capital Improvement Plan with the proposed public improvements and find projects are consistent with the general plan.
So just to clarify, you're only recommending to the city council. You're not required to approve the CIP. You are recommending to the city council whether to adopt the CIP or not. And then your findings are that the projects support and are consistent with the general plan. So those are the findings that you're making. But you don't have to approve the CIP. You just have to determine whether you want to recommend it to the city council.
Questions for staff?
Excuse me. I got a quick question on one of these. On Ohlone Parkway, that's pretty new. What is the improvement phase 2?
So Steve Palmisano, Public Works Director, will help us with that.
Thank you. Yeah. The section of Ohlone that would be from the railroad bridge or railroad crossing down to Beach Street. That part had not been improved yet, and so that's the section that still needs to have some work done on it.
Are we looking at curbs and sidewalk?
Right, yes.
What about in between the railroad track and the bridge across the slough?
It actually goes to there. That's part of the specific plan of that project.
Yeah.
I asked about that one today, and I know it's at least the railroad to Beach, but maybe it is. It seems like we would need to put in improvements in that whole section.
Because there's no crosswalk or anything there.
Yeah, I know there's plans for all of that to happen, so it just may not be that particular section.
Any other questions?
Other questions?
How about the downtown streetscape improvements? That Main Street?
Mm-hmm.
That, what can you do? I guess they're doing, it's not very much money.
No, we have been putting those banners, the Welcome to Watsonville banners, and we've been putting LED lights, and so this is just a little bit of money to continue doing that, maybe a bench or a replacement of trees. So it's really a streetscape for the downtown in an effort to spur economic development, make it look attractive.
I have a question.
And that question could be related to this downtown committee.
Right. That's
That
partially,
we'll
that
talk
downtown
ab-
committee would
we'll look at
later
Main
have
Street,
a
yeah.
larger budget. Mhm.
Before I forget, real quickly, ribbons, purple ribbons around, what does that signify?
It was Relay for Life, and it was May is Cancer Awareness Month, and they were supposed to be removed on June 1st. So we gave permission to the Relay for Life to paint the town purple in awareness of cancer.
People asked me and I didn't know.
Yeah.
Thank you.
There were a couple articles, but yeah, a lot of people didn't know.
Aurelio.
Question on the airport. Is this the second time going around trying to fund and do this project? Because I know it had been put out to bid at one time, and then it was put on
Which
hold.
airport?
Which is
For the
specific?
airport projects, the runways, are
Oh.
these all being brought back?
As I understand, these are new projects, not carryovers or anything that has been presented a second time. I know that there has been some grants that are being requested for funding of this project, so the majority of these will be funded by grants. And as I understand, these projects are new. They are not being requested for approval a second time.
Yeah, there's some desperately needed paving, from what I understand.
In my prior job, I watched bids from the city of Watsonville, and the airport came up a couple of times on bid projects for runways.
Yeah.
And one was put on hold the project itself was put on hold.
I don't think it's this.
Oh, I know.
I was wondering if this is in relation to that, because it's,
That was it was bid at one point, and we had to put everything on hold because of environmental regulations and permit requirements. So those have finally been all put in order, and the permits have been acquired. And so now that project is getting put back out to bid.
so this is in this,
So you have seen it before, but it never got built, and so we're actually getting to build it now. So, yeah.
Other questions? Dobie?
Yes, could you give us a little detail on the main Freedom operational improvements, 2015-16? Any chance we're going to get a traffic circle?
I know that is a study that we're going to be working with Caltrans to study what are the options at that intersection, but nothing's been decided in how those improvements would be made, just that it's obvious that something has to work better there. And so we're going to work with Caltrans to look for some improvements and look at a number of different options.
Thank you.
a question on this relocation to the sewers of these houses. Is there a reason that we're going to abandon the sewer on the back of their property line? I
Right.
guess?
That is a project.
In an alley, or?
It's an old set of sewer lines where the slope is not very, it's not sloped enough to drain in a reasonable way. And so basically that project, I think, it's not really well spelled out in the staff report. I think it's at Manana Lane is where we're going to be doing that. And so it's a number of very old properties where we will be putting in a new set of sewer lines and bringing new laterals to that line and abandoning the old ones. So it's an infrastructure improvement project, essentially. It's a place where historically they've had a lot of backups and they need to make some improvements so it doesn't do that anymore. So.
Other questions for staff? Mireya?
What's the, could someone describe the curb ramp program,
Oh, yeah.
please?
You want to?
I can.
We actually allocate a certain amount of money. I don't see it, I don't know which one you're talking about, but we certainly allocate a certain amount of money every year to rehabilitate corners to proper accessibility requirements. So I remember when we got the first amount of money to do this, like 20 years ago, I took a map, picked a school, and tried to figure out how people got there and did those first. So that's kind of how we've been doing them, and you have seen the new ones show up at different intersections. So we have been doing them in terms of which are the most heavily utilized, which ones are access to schools or hospitals. So every year we do a series. We do some more until we get the whole town done.
About how much does each one of those cost?
I don't remember. They're not cheap. Do you remember?
It depends on kind of how severely out of order it is. So it could be several $1,000s per corner.
Yeah.
So
it's this won't finish the town, but every year we do a few more.
Other questions?
I just had a question about process.
Mhm.
It's kind of described in the staff report, but how did staff come to the conclusion that these would be this year's projects?
Well, Ezekiel mentioned it briefly. First of all, we looked at the areas that do have any funding. Airport is not general fund; it's its own fund. As you can see, there's really no general fund in here. CDBG is a grant process. Gas tax is an allocation that we get for street improvements based on the gas tax in this town. And the impact fees are fees that have been paid by development along the way for us to do certain things like the impervious fee. The sewer has its own funding and solid waste has its own funding. So still, none of those had a tremendous amount of money. So the projects were prioritized first. What would actually cause damage to the current infrastructure if it didn't get done? It's one way we look at it. There's some streets we resurface and you look at it and you go like, that street was perfectly fine. Well, if you don't resurface it, 5 years from now, you need 5 times the money to rebuild it. So that's how some of the decisions were made. but they are based on priority, based on safety. So we have a set of criteria, and we do have a committee that represents all the various departments that gets together and prioritizes with the help of the department that is presenting the project. And usually we do listen to their prioritization, but we do review what they have selected.
Is there any public input?
Um,
Or are there, over time, over
Well-
a series of months, when the public maybe contacts the city about some problem?
Right.
Is
I
that
think the
taken-
sewer is a perfect example. They've had a lot of backups and a lot of problems with sewer in that neighborhood. So the department was able to determine that they really need to replace the sewer. There's opportunities for input throughout. We have had 2 study sessions on the budget. Today's a public hearing. It was properly publicized. And the council will be looking at the budget again next Tuesday. So that will be another public hearing. And all this budget information and the CIP that you have in front of you and all that has been published on the website.
Maria?
So if you get a lot of complaints from people about sewers at a certain neighborhood, that,
Right. And you also look at the airport. If they don't, fix this part of the runway, the cost is just going to be tremendous to redo it. So, and the improvements for traffic, we always prioritize with either safe routes to school. We look at ways, where do we do sidewalks first, where kids are walking, where do we do intersections, is where there's been a tremendous amount of accidents or something. So that is how it's prioritized. And gas tax can't be used for other things. It has to be used for streets.
can we have that chart again with where the income comes for the one that had,
I have a question.
where the money comes from?
So each one funds their own. So if you look at this,
So airport, does that mean that money can just be spent on the airport?
Correctly. In this instance, the projects that are being proposed at the airport can only be used for airport, and most of the revenue actually for this is coming from grants. So the city, the airport revenue is approximately $80,000 that will be used for this project, and the rest is going to be coming from state or federal grants. So, and it has to be specifically used for projects at the airport. It cannot be used for something else.
On the gas tax, is that money that comes,
right, we
from-
get that money. It's allocated on a per capita basis throughout the state from the gas tax. And
So does this mean that the more residents of Watsonville fill up their gas tank, the more money we get?
we get sales tax from that, but the gas tax we get on a per
mean, which-
capita basis.
If you want to eliminate
Yeah.
dependency on petroleum, it's,
So
you want the gas tax,
no,
but
no,
then you
the
want to,
gas tax is on a per capita basis.
Yeah,
The
so it
sales
means how
tax,
many people?
only the
We-
sales tax would be from buying it here,
Okay.
which is why some of us drive with fumes into Watsonville so we can fill up. And the city gets the sales tax, not the gas tax. But
So the gas tax is just figured on how many people are?
on a per capita basis
Okay.
statewide. And so we know our allocation, and we usually have, you look at that, school crossing upgrades. It's very specific. It's safety issues.
On that
Aurelio?
point there, school traffic, is there going to be a coordination with SEBA, and hopefully they get approved all the way through?
Yeah, they've been working with
on their
Maria.
upgrades, it's going to kind of coincide.
We're not doing any off-site improvements, like we're not putting in a sidewalk. There's continuous sidewalk to get to the school. We're not,
No, but I'm talking about crosswalk painting, striping,
Right.
signage.
Yeah,
That's-
so-
That's what I'm reflecting to,
So the person that manages-
colored signs that go up to indicate a school.
yeah, all that. So the person that was here from Traffic, Maria did, she's the traffic engineer and the Assistant Public Works Director. So they will work with us in terms of signage, school crossing, school zone, all that kind of thing. That will be
No
installed.
U-turns and all that kind of stuff?
That will be installed by the city at no cost to the school, But they will come, some of these school crossing upgrades and some of these other things, we participate in a variety of committees, including pedestrian safety committees that are countywide and bicycle committees that are countywide. So some of these are feedback from those committees that assess each town to see where you have some safety issues. So some of this comes from the pedestrian safety committee, which is a county-wide organization.
And I guess my question comes to this point of, is this money been already allocated to specific sites within the city of Watsonville? Or the
I
sites still
don't think
need to
so.
be chosen?
I don't think the sites have been selected, and I think that the Public Works Department would be interested in hearing about suggestions that they may want to add to their list. So if you know specific sites that definitely need a crosswalk or something, you know, they are trying not to install more crosswalks in certain areas, but they are putting new crosswalks.
Well, yeah,
in
and I'm just going back in reflections to Saba and their new location on Locust
Yeah.
Street, on Second Street.
Well,
You know, Walker
Oh.
Street. As it is, they walk around town, they're in downtown. Now I can imagine them doing field trip walks to the library.
Yeah.
Their route's gonna change.
Yeah. We have had from day one, since Saba kind of identified this site, the very first thing I asked for was a safe routes to school path. So we will be working with them throughout this coming year on all that, on the safe routes to school, a map, you know, and we check and we make sure that it's working. And while they've been at the Porter Building, it's been a give and take with the city building being next door and the kids running through our parking lot. And so we have had conversations all the time. It's a constant adjustment for both city staff and the parents, because we have to kind of share the space. So it's an ongoing work for us.
Even though we approved Saba unanimously, I'm still concerned about traffic,
Yeah, I know.
safety. And the question that you asked, Jenny, you never got a response. I mean, the students themselves said, this is a dangerous neighborhood. And you never got a response, including from Mr. Brown.
Or the kids. Yeah.
Or the kids.
Well-
What that meant.
I think the response that they gave you, sorry about that.
That's all right.
Was that as they influence the downtown area, they're expecting to influence the
The
Second
neighborhood.
Street area.
And the parents are involved.
That was a response to
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
That's how I received it. But as far as these projects go, so this is going to be pulled out for 3 years?
This is 2 years.
2 years?
This is 2 years.
2 years.
2 years.
So what is presented before you is a 5-year capital improvement project, where the first 2 years actually being proposed for approval to the council after your recommendation, and the next 3 years will continue to be on the list of projects to be approved, but they will be approved in the next budget cycle for funding. If those projects change, the needs of the city, of the citizens change, those could be revised at that point. So we just have a plan that is looking into the future 5 years, but the most immediate ones that most likely will be built and that will move forward are the ones for the first 2 years. The other ones will have to reevaluate as.
If I understand this correctly, then we're looking at just 2013 to 2015? And the total amount is $7,294,000? Is that?
Correct. Those are the projects for the first 2 years that will be approved for financing by the council. But you're also looking at the other 3 years using general as those projects finding that they comply with the general plan.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for staff?
I might have missed the explanation on this one, but obviously, looks like the biggest one is the 2.4 million from Broadus to Alta Vista. What type of improvement is that? The 2.4 million for Broadus to Alta Vista?
Freedom Boulevard. It's the other piece that didn't get done?
Oh,
The
so
next
all
phase.
that stuff that you did up to like M&M Party Rentals and that
Right.
area, now or up to Alta Vista?
And you're going to get the merchants upset because they're going to tear up the streets, and
That's a tough
We're
one.
gonna
but
do it better
At the
this
end of the
time.
day, it
and
looks
city
great.
council members will get phone calls.
It's gonna be
It's
in
going
and
to be
out of
better
there.
this time.
Yes.
I'll tell you later
We're
what.
planning already.
Hope so.
Other questions for staff?
I can guarantee you.
I have a
can tell
question
you.
about
Jenny.
as you can tell, you know, I work very closely with the schools, so my questions are always focused, and they'll get better focus on schools and students. Looking at the gas tax over here, the Pajaro Valley High School connector, is that in addition to what's already planned to build, or is that a revised?
We have been working with the county and the airport and private property to develop a trail to access Pajaro Valley High School from Airport Boulevard, pedestrian trail. So the kids don't have to go through Main Street and Green Valley Road. So coming from the rear, kind of the airport exit, a trail through there that will get to the back of the high school. It will require a lot of processing. It's in the coastal zone. It goes through partially private property, even though you could almost avoid it, but not quite. But that's what we're working on, accessing the school by student pedestrians from the back, a shortcut. That's what that is.
Okay, thank you.
We've been planning on it since the school opened, though.
That means it's going to happen.
No, it means we are putting the money in, hoping the coastal commission and all that is going to work out, and if it all works out, we have the money to do it.
Other questions for staff? We have to do a public hearing, right?
Yes.
I'd like to open the public hearing. Is there anyone who wants to come and address this item? Seeing none, I'd like to close the public hearing.
Well, that was quick.
Gotta act fast before someone shows up. Bring it up to the commission for discussion. Again, it's a resolution to recommend.
Recommendation to the council.
So is there I hear a motion?
I motion to approve a recommendation to the city council to adopt the city's 2013-2015 capital improvement.
Recommended by Mireya. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Aurelio. Any discussion?
Thank you, staff.
Roll call?
Corley,
Yes.
Dana,
Yes.
Gomez Contreras,
Yes.
Gonzalez,
Yes.
Jenkins,
Yes.
Sarmiento,
Yes.
Castillo.
Yes. Been recommended unanimously, and thank you, staff, for all of this hard work. Unfinished business. Finally, we get to do this.
Finally. So, for those of you that haven't been here before, so Pedro has been very nice to be acting chair. The elections usually occur in March. We're in June now, and I think you even started before then because I think the chair got elected to council. So he's been doing it for a bit. So it's a little less formal that at the council level we don't draw numbers in order to see who nominates first. So at this time, we kind of will act as your clerk, not the chair. So we'll kind of run it for you for a minute. So any of you can nominate anybody you want for chair. We will take any nominations in the order in which they're nominated, and then you will vote on those, and then we'll repeat it for vice chair. So if any of you would like to nominate somebody for chair, this would be the time to do that. So Jenny, you went first.
I would like to go ahead and nominate Pedro Castillo as chair.
Thank you. Is there another nomination for somebody else? Oh, is that second?
I was going to second.
Okay, second. Anybody else? Whoa, let's not all go at once. Okay. So, Pedro, are you interested in finishing the year?
It's halfway down.
Yeah, to March.
And there's no meeting in August.
Right. You're counting already.
Yeah, and no meeting in December.
So, seeing that, I'll close nomination. Is the nominee willing to accept the nomination?
Yes.
Okay. All those in favor for the nominee, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Anybody would like to make a nomination for vice chair? Yes, Dobie.
I'd like to recommend or nominate Marty that he continue as vice chair.
Okay, just because you're the second seat, they think that's what you're.
We're going to have to change chairs this way.
Yeah. So is there another nomination? Oh, is there a second for Marty Corley's?
I'll second it.
Is there another nomination for vice chair?
I'd like to nominate Jenny Sarmiento for
Okay.
vice chair.
Okay. Any other nominations for vice chair? Is there a second for the nomination by Mireya?
I'll second it.
Okay. So, hearing no more, I'll close nominations, and we'll vote in the order in which the people were nominated. So, I guess we'll do roll call since there's two nominees.
Can we vote twice?
That's why I was going to do roll call. So the first nominee is Marty Corley, and I'll just go ahead and do roll call. Dana?
Yes.
Gomez Contreras?
No.
Gonzalez?
Yes.
Jenkins?
Yes.
Sarmiento?
Yes.
Yes. Corley?
Yes.
Castillo?
Yes.
Motion passes. So we have a chair and a vice chair, and nobody has to change seats.
I like that.
Okay. Now, this is the fastest election in story. You got all that?
Yes.
Okay, good. So then the last thing is to
New
appoint.
business.
New business is to appoint a member to the downtown committee. So what happened was, you asked for a presentation, and we weren't able to bring you the presentation today. It will be coming at the next meeting. But to put the horse before the cart, once the presentation is made, and Keith will explain it a little bit, a committee will start doing things, and we would like a planning commissioner on this committee. So although you don't know the full breadth of what this downtown committee is going to be about, there's two council members on it because it's Main Street. So we have a council member for District 1 and a council member from District 2 representing the council on this committee. And we have residents and property owners and business owners and so forth. And we would really like to have a planning commissioner on this committee. So do you have anything to add? And the time limit is limited.
Yeah, just briefly. It's basic. It's not a formal appointment. They don't want it to be a Brown Act committee. So it's kind of whoever is interested in participating, you can talk amongst yourself. But there's 15 members, and why we have it on this is the first meeting is on the 15th of June, which is a Saturday, from 10 o'clock to 2 p.m. up in the community room. So, and they're anticipating that there's going to be 6 meetings, and one of them will be a field trip out to go around, look at all the different sites and things downtown and come up with ideas. So, sounds like an exciting committee. Kurt's going to be here. We didn't think we would have time this time to do the presentation, but he will be here in July. He has made that commitment. So you'll hear a little bit more about it, but anybody who is interested in, we would recommend that you go on Saturday. And shouldn't be a formal appointment at this stage is what he requested.
Yeah.
The focus will be on downtown?
Downtown.
Yes, it's strictly downtown.
We had mentioned this last time, and Rick expressed,
Right.
maybe now that you said Saturday, he might change his mind.
I would say this, and I mean that, if I would defer to District 1 and District 2, which I believe is it
Me.
Mariah and Aria?
Two.
Yeah, I think they would be the best. I would volunteer if no one else wanted to do it. I'd be happy to do it if that was the case, but I know that you're closer to the people that live there, and they probably have a lot more thoughts that you understand than I would in District 7.
Also, someone who's going to make a commitment for 6 Saturdays.
Is it every, is
Is it going to be all
Saturday?
Saturday meetings? Do you-
Not all, but there'll be some evening meetings.
But the first one will be Saturday. Could be the evening. No, I mean, there could be some evening
Yeah,
meetings,
There'll be at least one evening meeting.
You'll have fun.
and it'll be possibly 6 meetings, once a month, every other month.
About every 6 weeks.
So it's a commitment to come up with whatever
Right.
in a short time, not
Yeah, it's
a
not a
committee
long-
that's going to go indefinitely.
It's not a long-term indefinite commitment.
Anyone else interested?
I'm interested.
Okay.
We're all interested.
Okay, so who's districts 1 and 2?
1.
2.
Oh, there's 2 of you raising your hand for 2.
No, 1.
No, you did, who,
I'm 2, right?
I'm sorry, who's appointed by
I'm in
Felipe
District 1.
Hernandez? Who's appointed by Felipe?
7.
Appointed by
Oh,
Daniel
District 5.
Dodge.
Okay, that's not districts 1 and 2. So who's
That's
district?
not, he's not District 1?
No, District 1 is
Five,
Felipe.
I'm sorry,
I'm in
yes.
District 1.
Yeah, so Mireya is
That's
District
right.
1 and District 2 is Karina.
Aurelio.
Okay,
Yeah,
so it's
I live in
Aurelio and
District
I
Mireya.
used to be District 7, and then they did the little line change on me.
So you're both welcome to attend the meeting on Saturday, the 15th.
Who can come on Saturday?
Saturday, June 15th?
June 15th, 10 o'clock in the morning till 2 o'clock, and it's in the community room.
And there's no lunch, it's just straight meeting, right?
It's just a meeting, yeah.
I'm sure they'll give you something.
Bring your lunch.
Bring your own.
I'd be very happy to sit on that committee.
Great, thank you. So we have 2 volunteers?
Yeah.
All right, and we have a backup.
2 backups.
I would love to be a backup to the
can we
backup.
get
But it seems like if other planning, seems like if other planning commissioners would want to attend,
I'm sure.
That-
Hey,
They're
yeah, the
more than
public can
welcome.
attend. It's an open meeting
Right.
for discussion of ideas, so it's not a formal committee, so.
We'll make
anyway.
sure that when the announcement comes out, everybody gets it, in case anybody wants to attend.
But it's Mireya and Aurelio that are the key people, and Jenny is the backup person.
And Dana is the.
Dana.
I think it, it does impact all of us
Yeah.
Sure.
who live and work in Watsonville, so there's, I can.
It might be good if we all show up on June 15th.
Yeah.
If we don't have anything else to show the committee that we're really concerned with the downtown, and we want them to, and we want the city council to.
Yeah, and
move-
after
move
the
ahead.
presentation, you may make some changes, but at least to attend the first meeting.
Okay. Report of secretary.
I don't think I have anything.
That was it?
Quick question. I hear rumors that there's a business over in the East Lake Shopping Center that might be doing gambling.
Okay. So, can, the police department's on top of it, and I can discuss it with you offline?
Oh, you've already heard about it? I'm the last to know.
He's not even know there was a.
I'll be happy to
There's someone that
discuss.
we know for the planning commission?
I'm a gaming person.
No?
I do know, and I'm glad that you
I'll-
have information to share if we want to know offline.
After the meeting, I'll be happy
Yeah.
to talk.
Yeah, that's off the record.
Barbershop?
Let's not continue rumors here.
Bucks on my haircut.
Yeah,
And you know I don't gamble, then.
gambling.
I've been in
Oh,
a-
well, your haircut's gonna come
Any
out.
other, any other issues? Like to adjourn the meeting? The next meeting, don't forget, Tuesday, July 2nd. And it's at the, is this the one at the old?
Chambers.
At the old Chambers, across the street.
Meeting here.
So they're going to use this for something.
Retro. And fun to go back into the old chambers.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah, I walked in Lola. And I walked.